rebel I be one day. On that track with gunplay. Outcast my whole life, so I decide to spit like Andre.
What's going on, guys? Long and drawn out rollouts are nothing new in modern rap, but for today's subject, we have a rollout that has been starting over and over for the last 5 years, still with no end in sight. This story starts in 2018. A$AP Rocky drops his third album, Testing. I feel like nowadays people would call this album a little underrated and overlooked. Maybe it's just me, but there's a lot of incredible songs on this album, more than I expected considering its reputation. It's not great as a whole, but its highs are really high. But as you probably know, this kinda didn't do very well for Rocky. Testing got mixed reviews, the rollout was horribly managed. It was supposed to come out in 2017, then when it did drop in May of 2018, it was basically just announced the week of, no lead up or anything really. It was just, here's the new album, it comes out on Friday. And because of that, it only went to number 4 on Billboard. Not really a huge deal, but it does kind of emphasize the bad vibes around its release, especially when Rocky's previous albums both hit number 1. Due to all of that, a lot of fans kind of looked at Testing as an in-between album. It was more experimental, it stood out from the rest of his discography, it was just different. So most of his fans started expecting a new, more proper album in 2019, and luckily for them, it seemed like that was a possibility. All Smiles was sort of like the holy grail of Rocky albums. It had been rumored and teased long before Testing even existed, and after that album had been released, people were really excited. They thought they were finally going to get All Smiles, and it made sense that they would think that. There were tons of snippets being heard around this time. Rocky was still making references to the name. It seemed very likely that something would drop that year in 2019, but of course it didn't. And for a little bit, I will cut Rocky a little bit of slack. 2019 wasn't the best year for him. It was when he got arrested and the whole thing of him getting stuck in Sweden. I can imagine almost being a foreign prisoner would slow down the progress of a new album. And to his credit, he did drop the song Babushka Boy. So hey, 2019, he missed that, but still a pretty good chance of a 2020 drop. I'm just gonna save the time here. In 2020, A$AP Rocky didn't really drop much. You can blame the pandemic for it if you really want, but he still kinda just went dark there, which was very odd. All we really got was a song for Cyberpunk 2077, Flaco Loco, and Grim Freestyle, both songs that were never put on streaming. So let's move on to 2021, where you could say the rollout kicked off once again. We started hearing snippets again, and in May, Rocky would cover GQ and finally go into full detail about this album. He described it as a ghetto love tale, one that would have a more polished sound compared to Testing. He had been collaborating with Rihanna and Morrissey, which helped him further develop the sound, and more importantly, it was 90% done, and claim Rocky fans were happy to hear and totally wouldn't become misinformation later on. Now 2022, the rollout begins. Rocky would preview many songs live and even drop a couple. Starting in May, we'd get DMB, the album's first single, with a video featuring Rihanna. Rocky would also go on to Days magazine stating that All Smiles isn't the name of this album. Quote, "I never said publicly that my album was called All Smiles. That one is more of a concept project, it's music and more," end quote. A bit of an odd quote to unpack, honestly. It's really straightforward on the surface, but once you think about it, you get more questions. All Smiles isn't the name of this album, but it involves an album? What happened to that album? Where's the rest of this concept? Very odd of him to say that. I feel like a simple All Smiles was the name of an album I scrapped or something like that would be the better answer, but whatever. Artists will take every chance they get to be vague, and in case you were wondering, no, All Smiles has not reappeared since. In fact, I believe this is the last time he mentioned it, which means we're entering a new era. December 2022 was a very busy month for A$AP Rocky. He started out by dropping a long known about song, Shit in Me. This had been played live a few times way back in the Testing era, so he decided to drop it officially as a soundtrack song on Need for Speed Unbound. But that wouldn't be all, as on the 9th, he would perform at Amazon Music Live, previewing loads of new songs, and at the end, re-announcing his album That's right, it wouldn't be called All Smiles or even Grim, but Don't Be Dumb. Also stating that it was finished, and once again, at the time at least, it didn't seem like Rocky was lying. He had already kickstarted the rollout, and into 2023 it kept going as he would drop Same Problems in January, and then nothing. Again. For a whole 6 months the rollout would go dark, but that's alright because in July it would start back up with Rocky performing at Rolling Loud, dropping Riot, another song teased in 2022, and telling us to gear up for August. He would do another interview around this time, kinda along the same lines as the first one, but of course now speaking on the album's delays, which he attributed to leaks. Saying that the leaks were making him turn around and change different aspects of the album, but now it was time and he was in album mode. But of course it wasn't time, because the rest of 2023 and most of 2024 was coated in silence about this project. With more leaks and more lack of info, the album kinda just vanished. Until June. At the reveal for Rocky's clothing line American Sabotage, Rocky would debut some more tracks on the runway and conclude the show by announcing the album's release date, August 30th, 2024. Finally, after 6 years and 3 separate rollouts, it looked like there was a light at the end of the tunnel. When August came around, the rollout kept going. He dropped Hijack dissing Drake, but aside from that, there was a very quiet buzz around the album. It was like it wasn't coming out anytime soon, and that's because it wasn't. On the 22nd, a week before the album was supposed to come out, it was announced that it would be pushed back to fall 2024, with Rocky once again blaming leaks and also saying that there were issues with sample clearances, which is insane, by the way. Sample clearances being a problem for an album that's supposed to drop in days, that's been done for over 2 years, is a wild excuse. But it happened, and to make up for it, he dropped Taylor Swift, a song that had long been leaked and known about, on the 30th. In keeping with the new fall release, he dropped the song Ruby Rosary with J. Cole in September, but once again, a new single means a new delay. In November, pre-orders for the album were cancelled, followed by a delay from fall to early 2025, with no reason as for why. And that's where we're still at pretty much. It's early 2025 right now, and the only news we have about Rocky is this. And I'll get into that later, but for now, that's where the rollout sits, so let's get into the reasons why it might not be out. One of the most consistent things about the making of this album, aside from it not coming out, would be how many leaks and snippets have come out of it. Some examples being Shroom Clouds, American Sabotage, A Minute, Go, Back of the Beeper, and Whiskey, to name a few. All of these songs and more have been leaked in some way over the rollout of this album, leading Rocky to either release them as a Lucy or scrap the songs altogether, as he stated. It's kind of become this sad, vicious cycle of the album getting delayed so more leaks come out, but those leaks push the album back even further. But you see, those leaks may just be only half the story. Over the course of this album's inception, a lot of theories have sprung up from fans, and a good bit of them kind of hold weight, so I wanted to go over them. Alright, so one of the first theories about Don't Be Dumb not dropping would be that Rocky is simply scared to drop it. After Testing's lukewarm response, Rocky's worried that this album will get a similar reception, which will make it look like as if he's fallen off. This is a silly claim, but it's kinda understandable when you remember the amount of time it's been. I can imagine there's a lot of internal and external pressure from Rocky and his label to make a splash with this album. Another theory that fans have that kind of ties into the last one is that the singles that Rocky's released haven't done well enough. He's tried to release the album with a hit behind it, and as good as these songs are, none of them have been hits, so the rollout just starts up again with a new song later. This theory is also plausible, but it's also kind of dumb. As much as these singles have underperformed and how bad that could be for an album, repeating the cycle and dropping more singles and doing more announcements costs way more than a failed single ever would, especially over this course of 3 years. And now the biggest theory for why we don't have Don't Be Dumb, and something that I haven't mentioned all video, is A$AP Rocky's trial. In November 2021, Rocky and his friend A$AP Rocky were arguing outside of a hotel, and during this argument, Rocky would allegedly pull a gun on Relly and shoot it at him. Relly wasn't hurt, the bullet only grazed his hand, but still, pretty bad thing. That is attempted murder, and worse, most of it is on camera, which means that he could face 24 years in jail for all of this. So it's mainly suspected that the reason why this album still isn't out is due to the trial which is going on right now, and any possible intervention the album could have on it. It's not the most solid theory in my opinion, but it could hold up. This trial is pretty serious. Nobody got hurt in the end, but the whole fact that there's evidence for it takes it up another notch and kind of makes it a way bigger deal. Using Young Thug as an example, his trial was a way bigger thing. It's hard to compare this to a full-blown RICO, but in terms of the effects it had on music from him, his album Business is Business didn't really have any issues on the lawsuit. It didn't become evidence or anything. So honestly, I don't see what the hangup is, especially with the music that Rocky makes. He's not a gang affiliated artist or anything like that. So I guess all we can really do is wait and see. This trial isn't done yet, but it's looking alright for Rocky in my opinion. I think to give him serious jail time for something like this is kinda stupid. But anyway, hopefully we'll see the album after the trial, and if we don't, then next time we'll try not to be dumb. Alright, that's it for this video. I need to get my act together. This video took so long to even write. Of course, when it comes to this, writing a video really is like half the battle. I try to write them quickly so I can edit at my own pace, but I kinda dropped the ball. So if you're still here, like, subscribe, and comment. What should I talk about next? I have a lot of ideas, but I don't know what order to tackle them in. So if there's a video that you want to see in particular, throw it down in the comments, and I'll see you guys later. Stay clouded.